South Africa, and I've never been before, so I'm really, really excited to get to go. The boat's about 45 minutes to get there, and then from there, we've been told there's buses to take us to the prison. It'll be a really interesting day, but also it's fun because on the boat you get amazing views. They've also told us the whale spot, so hopefully we see some whales. Made it to Robben Island. We definitely recommend taking seasickness pills if you get motion sickness or if you're hungover. It's very necessary. It's a bumpy ride. So far, it's also been a lovely ride. We saw whales, we saw dolphins, we saw a seal. So it's super exciting, and now we're just heading to the buses and we'll go from there.
It is further up to our right hand side. This is the one that was built. Taking a look to our left hand side here, what surely captures our attention about this site must be these dog kennels here. These dog kennels were seen over here, which I understand them to be giving out an impression of prison cells. These are actually dog kennels which were built as part of security enhancement in the late 1970s. That's when authorities brought to this island a big number of German shepherds, Rottweilers, and to accommodate them they built these kennels here. And now we did mention at the beginning of the tour that when political prisoners arrived on this island, they started sending prisoners to labor quarries. This is one of those quarries. And it still stands today. Ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of the 70s, authorities noticing that the number of political prisoners is growing rapidly, they had concerns that they may start to be influential to criminals. To revamp and refurbish this building, turning it into a multi-purpose learning center. During school holidays, you get youth groups and schools visiting this island for camps and workshops. That is where they usually take place. I'm here to assist with those who suffer from leprosy. Buildings are right inside, it is where, and you still today have residents, which are many of Robben Island workers, mostly those responsible for maintaining and securing the public schools in Cape Town. Asked the population of the island, they've got 130 people as residents of the island. Education for the prisoners. Ladies and gentlemen, in the early days, prisoners on this island were not allowed to study. If a prisoner was caught teaching another prisoner something, he would face punishment. Now, due to pressures that came from the international community, the international amnesty, eventually authorities had no choice but to bend down and start allowing prisoners to study. But education came as a privilege for prisoners. A guard could decide at any day to take away that privilege should he not like you or disagree with you on something. Now, still, if you are allowed to study, you have to correspond with institutions from the mainland at your own expense.
So we've just made our first stop with the bus. There's a little place to get snacks, there's hot chocolate, there's coffee, potato chips, like that kind of stuff. And you get about 10 minutes to grab what you want, maybe go to the bathroom if you need to. So far, we're loving the tour. We've got a great tour guide, learning a lot. So, for example, I had no idea people still lived here.
I'm Gates. Once we are inside, I'll talk about these 3 areas before I talk about what will happen inside. For leaving the country illegal, also arrested for recruiting people to join the military wing of African National Congress. Those were the 3 charges. You can take pictures wherever we are. Take pictures and feel free to ask questions. moving towards democracy. There was a low-intensity civil war. And then political prisoners were being released. Monday to Friday. You get told at the gate what kind of work you'll be doing, who are the guards controlling your group, and then you go out around 7. Cutting trees, chopping wood, collecting the seaweeds, collecting the seashells, constructing some of the roads, repairing some of the roads, as well as stone quarry work, land quarry work, Monday to Friday. You come back around 4, they will count you 3-4 times every day, searching you 3-4 times every day. You can come here. Starting from 1970, prisoners allowed to play sports, soccer, volleyball, tennis, and rugby. Red Cross supplying us with sports equipment, and they used to give us just signed petitions, putting your names and your grievances, your complaints, smuggling those things to the human rights lawyers so that they fight for you that side. And then of course sometimes you refuse to do prison work. It's natural that if you are being beaten up, insulted as you do prison work, sometimes just stop. You're sick and tired of the whole thing, just stop. Yeah. So all those efforts slowly improving our situation. Red Cross also supporting us. Religious institutions of all faiths also supporting us, as well as Amnesty International and human rights lawyers. At that time, there was also international solidarity, anti-apartheid movement all over the world. Millions of citizens, different countries of the world calling for end of apartheid, calling for release of political prisoners, calling for proper treatment of political prisoners. All those efforts slowly pushing the government to improve things. And then of course, you come back around 4, you eat for the last time, 4:30, you are locked, reading political news, analyzing political news. That will be your second activity in the cells. To gather the news, most of the time you have to steal the newspapers from the guards, and then a little bit of this news will come from the few guards that are friendly. You approach them, you talk to them to give you newspapers. Or when you go out for prison work or coming back, if you get a small amount of time, you check from the rubbish bins that are on the roads, checking for newspaper pages. It's smelling badly, but you don't care. Or it's dirty as a newspaper, but you don't care, as long as you can find something. Saturday, Friday, Sunday, they bring a pastor or imam or swami to give you a religious service. At least in the 80s, that was happening every second weekend. Some of those guys also used to give us newspapers. Yeah. Along the way, we are also demanding that you be allowed to get newspapers. When I was around in the mid-80s, they did allow maybe 10% of prisoners to get newspapers. We were about 800 on average, about 800, maybe 120, 130 prisoners allowed in the mid-80s to get newspapers. But the newspapers that were allowed, one, they were mainly government mouthpieces, more propaganda stuff in those newspapers. Even so, those newspapers were also heavily censored. Lots of information removed. So you didn't get a lot from those newspapers. But you always have something to read and analyze. That activity, lots of cultural activities, freedom songs, traditional songs, political or not political stage plays, political or non-political poetry, traditional forms of dance, your resistance dance, and then sometimes you just sit around in the corridor, lunchtime on a Sunday. Whoever has a joke to share, he will tell that joke. Or some funny story to tell, he will share that funny story, so that we just keep laughing as a way of releasing stress. But in the 80s, even out there, as you do the prison work, you will also be telling all kinds of funny jokes, funny stories, sometimes even singing our freedom songs as we do the prison work. Other guards will not be too strict with those things. Others strict, others not too strict. You can sing, you can talk, as long as you do the prison work. Others, no singing, no talking, just do the prison work. But you still defy them. You also defy them. So usually you'll have that kind of environment where as you do your prison work, you are also doing a lot of talking and even discussing political stuff or just sharing some jokes. You come back around 4. And then education was another big demand. When I was here, already they were allowing limited form of education. They were already allowing limited form of education. Because it will come with a lot of frustrations. Some of the guys trying to frustrate and block these things, discouraging you, but other guys will actually be very constructive on these things. But you are prisoners. It's not easy to do your education. Under apartheid, in this prison, you were classified non-white prisoners. It's official. Non-white prisoners. So that was another reason why your education will be limited. Other things not allowed to you because of your color. And then you are in prison. There are other things that you cannot do as studies in the prison simply because it's a prison environment. So those were 2 disadvantages. But you have something that you can do, you teach each other. You spend time teaching each other in the cells here. So it was more of a family atmosphere that we created for ourselves. Brotherhood spirit, no violence, no abuse in this prison. No violence, no abuse. Of course, maybe 3-4 times a year you'll hear someone punched another one or kicked another one, maybe 3-4 times a year. But in general, no violence in the prison. You just sleep like you're sleeping back home in this prison. But it's a prison, 20 years, 15 years, 5 years, coming here at 21. It looks more complicated because I'm still young, 21, but I'm encouraged that at least it's not too bad. It's 5 years. And others, life sentences. Others had kids. Others were already married men when they came here, which will complicate things. Others shot at, bombed by security police or the army, coming here in poor physical shape. Most of us were tortured by security police. Others were tortured in the very extreme way. They'll come here in poor physical shape and poor mental shape. Really not 100% okay mentally. We'll see those things in prison here. My situation was not bad. I didn't have a child at that time. No long-term partner. Believe you me, that was some advantage. That was some advantage. Because that will mean you are more worried about yourself. Yeah. You're just more worried about yourself. I will feel something for my mom. I'll feel something for my only sister. But even how I feel about my sister and my mom does not come close to how that guy feels about his wife out there, about his children out there. That's heartbreaking. That's really tormenting you almost most of the time. Even a strong man like Mandela, when you read his book, you can tell that amongst top 5 challenges that he was struggling with in the prison, how he missed his children, how he missed his young wife. He really struggled with these two things. Really, it comes clear when you read Long Walk to Freedom. And then what about an ordinary guy? It will complicate. But in general, people were very strong. Myself, when I came here, it really was encouraging to see that these guys are actually in high spirits most of the time. High spirits. It's natural that maybe in a year there'll be those 3 or 4 weeks here and there where you just feel low. Yeah. After about a week, you're feeling okay. 3 months later, you just feel down for about a week or so. That will also happen. But in general, the spirits were very, very good. Others can start with the last 2 cells.
I love that they have the tape over him just in case. Oh wow, look at the art.
But I mean, it's one of those things you, yeah, why do I bring people?
Exactly.
And the more I look at you as politicians,
Oh my God.
doing the same thing.
We just go to be the look at the pictures first, and then coming inside, fourth door on the right, Mandela. But he is good enough to become the first president of a free South Africa. They were saying that when Mandela was around 86, 87. And then when you look at Mandela's background, it helped to develop his leadership skills from a very, very young age. Mandela was a son and the only son of that traditional leader. As a son, it was expected that along the way, when he has grown up, maybe the father has died or is too sick, he will have to take over from his father and become a traditional leader. So for that reason only, his family always teaching him about leadership from a very, very young age. Around 5, 6, they were already giving him small lessons about leadership. Especially his father was leading from the front, teaching him about leadership. Sometimes he will call him to sit next to him when there are meetings of traditional leaders, so that he can observe, listen, and also do a few tasks. He will just give him a few things to do as a way of preparing him, as a way of teaching him about leadership. Mandela's father died when Mandela was around 12. The king of that area, whose main advisor was Mandela's father. Mandela's father was the main advisor of that king. He took Mandela to stay with him when Mandela was 12 years, teaching him more about leadership. His family also teaching him more about leadership. In his late teens, he studies to be a lawyer. He is already involved in the fight against apartheid government. He already knows a lot about leadership, the challenges, the sacrifices, and then so on that have to do with leadership. More importantly, by that time, he had already developed the love for leadership, the passion for leadership. So many of the things that he used to volunteer to do them were coming out naturally, because from young age he was taught about leadership. Human rights lawyers working with him when he was still in his early 20s also contributed to improve his leadership skills when he was studying to be a lawyer or when he was operating as a lawyer. Other leaders, very experienced, were also developing his leadership skills, but they were doing it to a man that already had a lot of capability, a lot of know-how, a lot of understanding about leadership. By age 26, 27, he's already very influential. He's already a very fine leader. But as I said earlier, we also have top quality leaders. The likes of Neville Alexandra, Garvin Becky, Heri Kuala, Toivu ya Toivu, Zitulele Tsindi, they were also top leaders. That is why Mandela says, in that prison, whenever I go to sleep, I will feel like I've learned something from these leaders. He says that with his own mouth. He was always learning from these leaders, almost every day, because they were also top quality leaders. It was a shame to see such brilliant individuals languishing in prison. Honestly speaking, it was a shame for our country. These brilliant minds are just confined in a prison environment. I think we have to finish. The door will be that side, the gates, all the way to the harbor, that side. Thank you for coming.
Okay, so we just finished our tour and oh my gosh, it was amazing. We had a prisoner, well, former prisoner, showing us around, telling us what things were like, and it just cannot recommend it enough. It was really well done. So, yeah, now we're gonna get back on the boat and we'll go from there.